in the studio we have Jeanne Henifin, and she's from Pastoral Services. And welcome to Village in Motion, Jeanne.
Well, thank you so much.
And you're going to tell us something about Pastoral Ministries.
Right. I'm going to give the update for the month of July.
Oh, okay.
So the events that are taking place in the various faith communities and things that are sponsored by Pastoral Ministries. So starting this afternoon at 2, Dwayne has already mentioned this, but there's a movie. It's actually an award-winning documentary film, but it feels like a movie. Oh. So it's not a slow-moving anything. It's just beautiful, and it's called The Eagle Huntress, and it's the story of a 13-year-old young girl in Kazakhstan, and she was the first in a long line to become a huntress with the eagle. That was something that only men did.
So this took place in Kazakhstan?
It did.
Okay.
It did. And so if it's hot today and you want to feel cool, come to the movies.
What's the
because
period?
Not only will you have it, this is recent, so it's happened within the last 20 years at least. So, but it's just beautiful.
Now the eagles in Kazakhstan, are we talking about bald eagles? Do they also have bald eagles there?
I don't know
which eagles they are.
I don't know.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, and in fact, I had to go back and check because at first I was thinking it must be falcons. That's kind of what I was
but it's
used
eagles.
to. But it's beautiful, and the backdrop will be the Mongolian steppes in the snow, at least for part of it. And so I think it'll be a lovely way to spend an afternoon today. So, and then tomorrow evening, July 3rd, the Jewish community is sponsoring a movie in the Village Square Theater called Loving Leah, and there will be no subtitles with this one. The Eagle Huntress will be in English, but we'll also have subtitles, just so you know. But Loving Leah is the story of a doctor, a young doctor who steps in when his older brother has passed away, and in an old Jewish tradition, he marries the wife of his deceased brother, and it sounds like an interesting film. So anyway, so this Thursday would normally be Faith, Grief, and Loss, but because we know Thursday is the 4th of July, we have something quite big to celebrate, and so instead of the first Thursday of the month, it'll be the second Thursday. Faith, Grief, and Loss is something that Pastoral Ministries sponsors in the chapel.
Now, what do we do for Faith, Grief, and Loss?
We gather in the chapel, and usually the side chapel, so that it can be a smaller, intimate group. We've had probably as many as 7 people come. Sometimes there's only 1, and people can come whether they're suffering from a recent loss. Often an anniversary of a loss of any kind can trigger, emotions and
so if
issues.
you're feeling low, if you're feeling
low,
grief, or if you're feeling, you really would like to talk with someone else about your grief, about your loss.
Yep.
This is the place
This
and the
is
time
a good place to come, and it can be just a beginning. It is something that we offer just once a month, but it's a way to connect with people. And one thing that I've seen happen at the Faith, Grief, and Loss is somebody will say, I'd really love to write my memoirs, but I can't write anymore. My hands don't work. And somebody else says, I can do that. I would love to visit with you and hear your stories and write things.
Who comes to it? Apparently someone else comes to it other than the one who's grieving?
Well, the Pastoral Ministries staff, we take turns hosting. And
just
usually
one idea, or 2 or 3?
Usually 2 or 3 of us are there.
Okay.
So, every now and then it's just one of us. But it's something that we all value, and so, we enjoy.
So we have 1 or 2 of the Pastoral Ministry staff, and the people who maybe more than 1,
right,
or maybe 3 or 4, 5, 6, 7, who are grieving, who would really like to talk with someone about their loss and their grief and so forth.
Exactly.
And how long? When does it occur?
Normally it occurs on the first Thursday, but because we've got 4th of July, this time it will be on the Thursday, July 11th.
Yeah.
It's always at 11 a.m. and it's always in the side chapel. The only time it gets moved is if we have a funeral or a memorial service or something that has to take place.
Now, I'm not familiar with the side chapel. Tell me where it is.
Oh, okay. It's the alcove in the chapel. It's the part of the chapel that you can pull a curtain and cordon it off. So if...
You mean when we come into the
when
chapel?
you come into the chapel, it's off to the right. So it's where there's an altar set up so that the Catholic community uses... I think they put a creche there in the Christmas season.
So it's the little area where often people sit.
Yes.
To watch the major chapel.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. And so you can pull
We can pull the curtain, just have it be a little
right.
more private. So, and it's an hour. We try to limit it to an hour. But again, if people need more support or whatever, we encourage them to call us, come back and visit, to reach out. We don't want people ever to feel like they're alone in their grief.
Well, I can see this as being a very important service because, so many of us here at Green Spring have lost our spouses or, we've got a spouse to worry about.
Yeah.
That one might be another reason, I would think.
And that's true. It's not just the death of somebody. It can be...
the sickness.
Absolutely. Any kind of sense of loss that people have that's compounded. So anyway, then the last two things that I want to tell you about that are happening. On Monday, July 29th, the group that I'm the pastor for, which is the Green Spring Fellowship, is hosting a worship concert. And that is a regular Monday night that we have set aside for Green Spring Fellowship services.
And that would be at 7 o'clock?
It's 7 o'clock, and because it's the fifth Monday in July, we decided why not, instead of have a sermon, that time we'll just do beautiful music. We have classically trained musicians coming from Faith Church of Kingstown, and many of them have spent time or are currently with military bands. I know Beth Mayland, who was here last year when we did a concert. She's a harpist and is...
she was great too.
Lovely.
Yeah.
Anyway, it will be very special. We are going to sing just a couple of hymns, one to get started and one to end, but we'll have some vocalists who will be there. We've got some beautifully
is this a group voices. That's coming, or are they individual?
It's a group. It's a group that's coming.
How many are involved?
Probably 10-ish or so
10.
that will come. Okay. And Lisa Thomas is one of the pianists who will be there, and in fact, she's the head of Springfield Music Club. And because of that, she has all kinds of connections with incredible artists, and
the harpist will be back.
I believe the harpist will be there as well.
And what we have,
and then we're gonna have ice cream afterwards. Not in the chapel, of course, but in the Hunters Crossing classroom.
Oh, okay.
So we'll have a lovely concert, and then we'll go eat ice cream. So.
All right.
All right, and then the last thing I want to let you know about that's happening in July is on the 30th, which is a Tuesday, at 1:30, Rabbi Bruce Aft will be here. He often does special presentations that are sponsored by by Pastoral Ministries. And this one is titled Healing in a Troubled World, from Hiroshima to 2019 to present day. So I don't know details about that one, but Rabbi Bruce Aft is always interesting to listen to.
Yeah, he's had a lot of interesting programs.
He has, yeah.
A lot of different subjects.
Yep.
And I'm sure this will be likewise.
Absolutely, absolutely.
It's kind of interesting that he's chosen the period from Hiroshima to 2019.
Yeah.
I mean, why not the end of World War II to 2019?
Well, I'm wondering if he's just going to focus on the dropping of the atomic bomb and have that.
And the problems of the Japanese. It could well be.
So that's at 1:30, and it is in the chapel. So wanted to make sure you know where and when. And the last thing that I'd like to mention is that you all have noticed coming into the chapel foyer that we have 2 display cases that are up, and we can change out the displays in these two cases. And so we're trying to encourage people, if you've got items of interest that are faith related, we do a Diwali display when that is, it's time for the Diwali festival, which is a Hindu festival. We recently had a display from the Orthodox community on icons, and right now there's one on illumination, biblical illumination and calligraphy. And anyways, we can have displays stay for 1 month if we have a lot of people that are interested in helping. I'm happy to help put it together, help label things, and display it artistically. So you're not just on your own. If you have a display, I would love to talk with you. And we're hoping around Christmas time to have a display in at least one of the cases on nativity sets, because people don't always feel like they can put their nativity set safely on their shelf. And if it's something special and you feel like it needs to be locked behind glass, but you want to share it, then this would be an opportunity.
Like a good opportunity,
yes,
to display something like that. Well, Jeanne, thank you very much for coming and telling us
well,
about
it's been a pleasure.
Pastoral Ministries.